When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
The controversial comments on immigration that led Macy's and NBC to sever ties with real estate mogul turned presidential candidate Donald Trump. It is time now for our Sunday group. Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume, syndicated columnist George Will, Jackie Kucinich of the Daily Beast, and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Brit, I'll start with you. What does the GOP do with this?
I don't think the GOP has to do anything with this. I think Donald Trump, by his behavior and by the flamboyance of his manner, sets himself apart from the rest of the GOP field, and he has a niche following and will probably continue to. But I don't think people look at him and say, that's the face of the Republican Party. So I think the GOP just lets this unfold however it will. I don't think Donald Trump will go very far, but he'll be with us for a while, and he'll make news, and he'll get attention. But you don't hear people saying, what is the Democratic Party going to do about Bernie Sanders? He's becoming the face of the party. He's going to ruin the image of the Democrats. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and Democrats aren't as often, it seems, asked to answer for somebody else in their party for a comment they've made. We do have some reaction on both sides of this issue from other GOP contenders.
When it comes to Donald Trump, I like Donald Trump. I think he's terrific. I think he's brash. I think he speaks the truth. And I think NBC is engaging in political correctness that is silly and that is wrong.
He's doing this to inflame and to incite and to draw attention, which seems to be his organizing principle of his campaign. And he doesn't represent the Republican Party or its values.
And George, Jeb went on to say he took this personally. His wife is from Mexico.
Well, Brett is right that there's a double standard here, that the Republicans are uniquely identified with the unfortunate people in their own party. But ask yourself this thought experiment. If Donald Trump were a Democratic mole placed in the Republican Party to disrupt things, how would his behavior be different? I don't think it would be. There's all this loose talk, but it's something to it about the Republican brand. Picture him on stage in Cleveland. He says something hideously inflammatory, which is all he knows how to say. And then what do the other 9 people on stage do? Do they either become complicit in what he said by their silence, or do they all seriatim have to attack him? The debate gets hijacked. The process gets hijacked. And at the end of the day, he is a one-man Todd Aitken. I mean, he's Todd Aitken with 10 different facets. That's the gentleman who in the 2014 election said some unfortunate things about rape, and every Republican was asked about him from then on.
And for now, Trump sits atop a lot of the polls, along with Jeb Bush, the former Florida governor, who, by the way, released this week more tax returns than any other presidential candidate has ever done. Jackie, what does that do now as far as pressure on Hillary Clinton to give us similar access to what we know about her?
It does increase the pressure. We do have some financial data from Hillary Clinton over a number of years because of her various positions in the government. But yeah, this does increase the pressure on her to release more, because we have access to all of Jeb Bush's records at this point when it comes to taxes. So, we'll see if she responds, but it also puts pressure on the other Republican candidates, everybody in the race, because of this level of transparency.
I mean, Juan, he's done very well financially over the last few years, not as well as the Clintons, but he knows he's going to take heat as much as Romney did for being somebody who has done very well, has had privilege, and maybe out of touch.
But he paid a lot more taxes than Mitt Romney, because he wasn't doing it through capital gains. He was doing a lot of it through speeches, and some of the speeches came through companies that he had dealings with while he was governor and helped them. So there's some questions to be raised there. And also, you got to remember, when you look at his earnings, he decided that he wanted to take advantage of the fact that he was Jeb Bush. And so I think it raises questions about the Bush-Clinton dynasty and money, and how the political class in this country enriches themselves oftentimes at the at the cost of saying, you know what, I'm using my experience as an elected official to then go off and enrich myself. And that raises a question at a time when there's so much populist questions about income inequality in the country.
Well, and there are so many questions about calls for transparency with these tax returns. Also with Hillary's emails, there have been more developments on that this week. Here's a little bit of what State Department spokesman Admiral Kirby had to say about some of the emails we're not getting from Clinton's history.
Are a small number that are being withheld for executive privilege purposes. That is not uncommon. It's not atypical.
Some of them we're not going to see also because we're told now they're confidential, although, Brit, they might not have been when they were sent, but we know there's a gap. There are some that we're not seeing.
Yeah, I suppose it was just a fond wish, a dream, that we were going to get to see everything. Obviously, we're not. Everything that we get has already been selected by Hillary Clinton for not to be deleted. So we don't know, even if we got everything that was left, we wouldn't be getting everything. And this is so Clinton-esque. It's always, you never quite get the whole truth. You never quite get full disclosure. You never quite catch them in a violation of the law, but you almost never catch them being totally ethical either.
So, George, will it affect her?
Oh, that's
in
the
Poland.
biggest word in the English language is if. If the American people are paying attention to the arcana of this back and forth, then it will hurt her. But of course they're not. They have better things to do with their time. She altered some of the emails she did submit. Now the State Department, joining the IRS as complicit in another scandal, the State Department is withholding some that the Congress has sought. So the scandal just keeps growing more legs. But I think the Clintons operate on the way the old Chicago Democratic machine did. If you have a different scandal every week, no one pays attention.
Don't forget about the first ones.
Yeah. Well, and something that the Clinton campaign is getting a lot of questions about today. If you all saw this yesterday, a lot of the candidates were out in 4th of July parades. A lot was made by members of the press who were trying to follow Hillary Clinton. And essentially at one point during the operation, there were staffers that put a rope around them. We know rope lines do happen. This one seemed a little unusual because it was in the middle of a parade and literally the rope appeared to be wrapped around journalists at some point who were trying to cover the former secretary. Jackie, it may be nothing more than a PR issue today, but memes went crazy on the internet last night with this image.
Well, this is clearly the newfound relationship with the press. It's better, right? I mean, now they're in a pen. No, this looks silly. It should be treated as something that's silly. I mean, it looked ridiculous putting cameras behind those ropes. And there are security concerns. Mm-hmm. We all get that, but come on, guys.
Another image getting a lot of attention the last couple of days, Bernie Sanders. I mean, he is drawing thousands. He's pulling up in the polls and in fundraising as well. Not anywhere near approaching Hillary Clinton on those two fronts, but certainly, Juan, with respect to the people who are turning out and wanting to hear what he has to say, they say there's Bernie momentum. Do you agree?
Bernie momentum. I like
Bernie
that.
momentum. Yeah, something
Bernie
like
momentum.
that.
Okay. So he's within 10 points of Hillary now in New Hampshire, and I think that's got to raise some eyebrows. Whoever thought Bernie Sanders, Mr. Socialist, would be that close to the Clinton brand in American politics. But he is. Now, the downside is he's just raising money. He doesn't have any organization in the key states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada. And you got to remember also, he doesn't have the name ID that Hillary does. So Hillary is not interested in big crowds at this point. She's interested in saying, I can go out and talk to people, I can be your friend on an individual basis. Bernie needs the big crowds. Mm-hmm. So don't get fooled by the short-term illusion here.
All right, panel, we've got to take a break. We will see you all in just a little bit. Up next, is the Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage a threat to religious freedom? We're going to discuss it with two key guests on opposite sides of this issue. And what do you think about protections for the First Amendment and religious liberty? Let us know on Facebook or Twitter at Fox News Sunday. And of course, use the hashtag throughout the show, FNS.